Hi, my name is Greg Richardson, and I'm the product owner for IK Retargeting and Full Body IK in Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine for Fortnite. Now, this is an addendum to the existing biped guide to show off a new feature within retargeting that allows you to create your retargets faster. So this was introduced in Unreal Engine 5.4 and in UEFN for, I believe, 2920. And if we go into our content drawer, you'll see that under any sort of animations, I can now right click and say retarget animations. Previously, this was in another submenu that was called duplicate and retarget. But if we go under retarget animations, you'll get this new dialog that shows a viewport in some simplified fields that allows you to play animations and see how your retarget process by auto-generating a retargeter. Now, this process will support most common bipedal skeletons. The list of supported skeletons are up on the screen right now. And all of these skeletons will be supported for all the basically able to automatically create full body IK, retarget chains, and we'll apply some sort of auto alignment of the retarget poses. So no matter if your character is in A pose or in T pose, it should try to match as close as possible. This will also work with IK bones and root motion in case if your animations have those as well. So here, for example, I have my source skeletal mesh, which I am using a mixable character. And I can go in and look for any sort of character that I have. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do it on my StackoBot here. You'll see that if we open up StackoBot, which you can kind of see a little bit in the thumbnail, that StackoBot is normally in an A pose while our Mixamo character is in a T pose. So you'll see that this auto retarget process not only align the bones and match the poses, but if I were to play the animation, you'll see that you can automatically get a result really fast and immediately export your animations if you want to. I can preview as many of them as I want within here. And if I want to select any number of these, I can go ahead and select them, export animations. I can create a folder by right-clicking folder and just say retargeted anims. And I have the ability to, still rename. If I want to use the source path, I have that, which would place all the new animations at the same location as the source asset. I'm not going to do that, but that is possible within some of our new features. And I'm going to go ahead and hit export. And I also have the ability to override existing files. So if you're constantly, adding new processes or new animations and you just want to overwrite them instead of create new files, you have this ability now too. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and export, and I'll create all of my animations super fast and I'll be able to use those immediately. Just open one of them and we can see that StackoBot is moving well, and root motion is already generated as well, which is awesome. Now, if I were to go back to my characters, go under the Mixamo folder, and let's say, for example, I wanted to retarget animations, but I wanted to retarget to something that isn't supported by the auto retargeter. So let's use this Spelunker creature. It's going to say that it can't find any bone chains between the source and the target, and it's going to have some errors about trying to pin certain bones. So it found a template for Mixamo, but cannot find one for Spelunker. So if I try to play some, it'll try to play it, but mostly on the hip motion, which is okay. But let's say I want some of that leg motion too. Well, I don't have to always use the auto generation. What I can do is I can uncheck this and provide a retargeter asset if I need to. So for this case, I'll just use my Mixamo the Spelunker because I've already defined the chains for the right and the left leg, and that's what is going to try to use. You can see how that running looks. It's going to look obviously a little bit different because I am using 2 legs to a 3-legged creature, but I can immediately export those animations using this retargeter, which is super nice and handy. So that way I don't have to open the retarget asset and the retarget editor to access those animations and batch export those. Now, another thing that we can do So let's go back to the Sakobot. Instead of exporting just animations, I can also export the retargeter assets. And this is super useful, especially if you're runtime retargeting either within UE or using the character device with UEFN, where you need to supply a retargeter asset. So I can go ahead and just say export retargeter asset, and I can define where I want it to. So I'm just going to say retargeter assets and go ahead and export. And it's automatically going to put them into this folder with my auto-generated IK rigs and my auto-generated retargeter. So now if I were to open these, you'll see that all the retarget chains are created along with the full body IK in case if you're going to use this for a target. Same for the, let me go back to the Stacklebot character. And also the same for my retargeter. So we'll have all of that ability, and you'll get the same exact results as you saw in the dialogue whenever I hit any one of these animations, and you'll get the results that you were expecting from before. Now, just something to note is within the auto retargeter, all we're doing is using the root pass and the FK pass. We do not turn on IK, partially because this does not always guarantee the necessary results across all the animations as we found. So once you export your retargeter assets, you can turn on IK if you want to, and then re-export within the retarget editor, and do your additional adjustments that we have gone over in other videos within this course. So blend the source and going through all of these different properties in order to fine tune your retarget. Now, if you don't have any sort of character, so like that Spelunkel creature that I was showing off earlier, where you want to use parts of auto retargeter, but maybe your custom character is not supported, we still have ways to make it easier. So, for example, if I reopen up this Maximo character, and if I were to clear each one of these chains for a moment, and I were to get rid of all of the goals and the settings, just so that way we're working from scratch, and deleting the full body IK solver, and clearing the filters, and reset the retarget root. We now have buttons within the IK rig in order to auto-generate some of these things if you're not using the retargeter. So if you are using the auto-generating retargeter, it will do most of this for you in the background, but you also have access to this within the IK rig editor. So for instance, let's say I already have this mixed mode character and I didn't use the auto retargeter, so therefore I'm just gonna say, hey, auto create me my chains and auto create IK. And boom, that's all good and fine and dandy. That's great. I'm gonna go ahead and save that, and I can now use this on any other retargeter. So if I go back to the auto generated, then that will do this auto match, which we have all of these options here for, as I've covered in previous videos. But yeah, the auto map will work, and it'll try to do an auto align, which will just do a alignment based off of matching of the retarget chains. And that's all under this menu here within the retargeter. So let's say you have like a quadruped and you need it to auto match. You might get a better auto match via here rather than individually manipulating your bones. You can easily do that by going under the edit retarget pose. And if we were to just reset this, just as a simple example, you'll see that Stacklebot by default is in a pose, while our mixed mode character is in a T pose. So what I can do is I can just say, hey, auto align on all bones, and it'll forcibly put it into a T pose. So now I'm going to demonstrate a workflow where if the auto retargeter does not work because of flipped meshes on the auto alignment of poses. So this can happen where when you're importing your skeletal meshes and they're not facing the positive Y direction. Now you can fix this by fixing your import transform and just having the offset there, but the retargeter also provides different ways to where you can fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and right click retarget animations, And I'm going to assign it the Vicon skeleton. Now, in this case, I had brought in my Vicon skeletal mesh, and I had it flipped, and also the hips was the first bone, so therefore it's trying to do the ground alignment on at 0 because there is no root bone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the retargeted assets and save it into that same folder that I had before. I'm going to open up my retargeter. It's going to ask me if I want to apply a vertical offset on the root bone, so that way it's off the ground, and I'll say sure, apply that offset. So now that I have this in here, we can see that the Vicon skeleton is basically it's above the ground and it's matching accordingly. But what I'm going to do is I am going to go into edit retarget pose, and I'm just going to reset this all, so that way I get all of my I get my T pose from my Vicon skeleton. And what I can do is under my hips, I am going to apply that 90-degree offset on the Z on the location, so that way we're above the ground. And I can just rotate this 180 on Z as well, just so that way I'm facing the right direction. And once I'm facing the right direction, what I can do is I can select the rest of my bones and say auto align selected. And now I'll get a better auto align across the board. Now it looks like my feet are a little off, so I can either re-rotate that or try to re-auto align based off of that mesh, or just manually edit those. But that's just an easy way for you to tweak those without having to forcibly tweak them onto your skeletal mesh on the import transform. We're really excited to share this feature for all users in UE and UEFN. We look forward to hearing your feedback on our public roadmap and are excited to see what you create within Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine for Fortnite. Thanks for watching.